Okay, I believe that we're ready to get started by way of introduction. My name is Tim Barker. I'm District Attorney for York County. And we thank you all for being here today. As you can see with all of the dignitaries that are behind me and surrounding me from our different departments, going from right to left, we have, of course, our President Commissioner, Julie Wheeler. We have our Police Commissioner for the City of York, Michael Muldrow. We have Trooper Grothy with the Pennsylvania State Police and their Communications Unit. We have Chief John Snyder from the West Manchester Township Police Department. We have from West York Borough Police Department both Chief Matthew Millsaps and Lieutenant Dave Cayley. We also have Chief Dave Lash from the Northern York County Regional Police Department. We also have Chief Todd King from Springettsbury Township Police Department. We have our Sheriff Richard Kuliber, as well as his top assistant Steve Deal. We also have from our coroner's office our coroner Pam Gay, as well as her chief assistant as well, Tanya Zek. And we're here today for a specific reason. Back on February 22nd, when we spoke to you after what occurred at UPMC Memorial Hospital, we stated that there was going to be a full criminal investigation that was going to occur, and that when that was concluded, we would come forward and we would speak to all of you about some additional findings of fact. During this time period, as you know from contacting our office, we have continuously refused to say anything until the time that the investigation had hit a point where we could say it had essentially reached its conclusion. And that was intentional. That was intentional because we knew if we'd be coming back out here, we would need to be offering a true finding of fact. And I want to state at the outset, these findings ultimately had to be made by me. I am so greatly appreciative to all of law enforcement, but especially in this particular instance with this investigation, the Pennsylvania State Police, with the assistance of our county detectives. They thoroughly investigated this matter and allow me to feel that I'm able to offer to you a true conclusion and some answers to what have been pressing questions. I thank all of law enforcement for all of their cooperation. At a time when everyone was trying to heal, we had to go in and ask questions. And we had to go ahead and see what answers could be provided. We know by doing that we ran the risk of offering further trauma to occur to all the officers that we care about so much, all the healthcare workers that we care about so much. We love them dearly and deeply, and we appreciate their cooperation. I want to also specifically thank an unnoticed and behind-the-scenes individual, but Edward Paskey, counsel for the FOP, the work that he has done in working with our Fraternal Order of Police and with all police agencies, the great work that he has done to make sure that everyone is able to go ahead and receive care and talk with people and to work their way through it. It's unsung work of true care and love that we thank you very much, Ed Paskey, for the work that you've done. Couple ground rules. Privacy interests are paramount. I'm not going to be identifying officers or healthcare workers by department, by title. You'll hear very little about that. There's no reason for that, for the finding of fact and for these conclusions. You have already heard about some officers being injured. We will recap that at the end by department, but not identifying which department, which injury. If those officers or those individuals wish to do so at another time, they may do so. But it will not be coming from me, because that does not serve the purpose of what we are here for today. And further, Officer Andrew Duarte, his family, and speaking with his mother, who I am going to tell you right now is one of the strongest, most wonderful people I've ever met in my entire life, wants to make sure that this entire community and every officer is supported and able to heal. If anyone was hurt or harmed by anything that we are doing here today, that would denigrate the memory of her son and would be harmful to her, our office, and I in particular, will always honor a victim's wishes and victim's rights at all times. And I'm absolutely going to do that today. Diogenes Archangel Ortiz, who I'm going to refer to as the actor. And my reason for doing so is I have, unless I'm in a court of law, speaking about the evidence in a case to convict someone, do not, or at least try to minimize any promotion of the identities of individuals that commit violence, especially mass violence. He was a 49-year-old male who resided with his significant other. In the week prior to the hostage shooting incident at UPMC Memorial Hospital, the actor's significant other was admitted to UPMC and was taken to the intensive care unit. Now, out of the respect for the privacy interests of his significant other, I am not going to go ahead and detail what her health care issues were or identify her by name. All I will do is generalize that during that week, she did not show signs of improvement. Her condition worsened, and eventually her condition became terminal. During this week, there was contact by the UPMC healthcare workers with the actor. During these interactions, the actor showed no signs that he would perpetrate an act of mass violence towards anyone or any healthcare workers. The actor did appear to be in disbelief when he first heard about the terminal nature of his significant other's condition. He initially stated he could not be there at the time that she would pass, but then he changed his mind. He remained at the hospital, came in daily, and while he was there, he was sad and solemn, but was also polite. He was described as being nice, almost too nice, by one healthcare worker in particular. At approximately 6 p.m. on February 21st, the actor did thank medical staff for taking their time with his significant other. And pursuant to the actor's wishes, hospital staff contacted him to inform him of his significant other's pending death. Numerous attempts were made to contact the actor, but he did not answer his phone. On February 22nd at 8:32 a.m., the actor did go to the West York Walmart. He's observed in surveillance video there. At the West York Walmart, the actor did purchase multiple packages of zip ties, spray paint, a knife, and lemonade. His demeanor appeared to be normal. There was nothing noted by the Uber driver regarding any change in demeanor or any aspect about him at that point. At 10:35 a.m., the actor is observed on surveillance in front of UPMC Memorial. Again, he is dropped off by an Uber. This Uber driver does not notice anything out of the ordinary or anything regarding the actor's demeanor that would cause concern. The actor at this point, he's wearing a red hat, black jacket and pants, red and white sneakers, and he has a gray backpack. He proceeds to the second floor where the ICU is located, and at 10:37, the actor arrives at the entrance of the ICU. He uses the phone at the entrance to contact staff inside of the ICU. A healthcare worker answers the phone, and asks him to hold while she speaks with a supervising doctor at that point. The supervising doctor states that he will speak to the actor, and the actor is allowed in to the ICU, the doors opening at 10:39 a.m. Upon entering the ICU, the doctor does escort the actor to an open room in the ICU to have a discussion about the actor's significant other and about her passing, and that she was moved to the morgue. The actor became nauseous, and it did appear that he was going to vomit. The actor ran into the bathroom within the room. The doctor left the room to give him space. Moments later, the actor exited that room with a firearm. He began to yell, "This is what we're going to talk about." The doctor sends a text message to staff telling them he has a gun, run. That text had a timestamp of 10:43 a.m. The actor then pointed his firearm in the direction of the doctor and discharged it twice. The doctor was only several feet away at that point. One round did graze the doctor's arm. The other pierced the front of the doctor's jacket that was hanging open, and the doctor was able to run out of the ICU. Now, this particular firearm, give me one moment. This firearm was a silver 9mm Taurus. This silver 9mm Taurus was stolen from a residence in Manor Township, Lancaster County, during 2017. The actor was a person not to possess a firearm due to a robbery that he had from the 90s. We do not know what the link is between the actor and the firearm, other than to say this was the firearm he possessed and that he used on February 22nd. After the doctor left the ICU, as he was running out of the ICU, the actor went and pulled a healthcare worker out from under a desk. This healthcare worker had taken cover, and the actor provided the healthcare worker with a bag of zip ties. The actor then instructed the healthcare worker to zip tie everyone else up. This healthcare worker did zip tie 2 other healthcare workers in the ICU. At 10:43 a.m., York County Control began to receive calls from inside the hospital, and a dispatch for units to respond began. Also, at around this time period, another healthcare worker attempted to respond to the ICU. Upon opening the doors to access the ICU area, the actor peeked around the corner and pointed his handgun at the healthcare worker. The actor then fired at her 1 time, causing the healthcare worker to take cover from the actor. The actor began yelling at the healthcare workers in the ICU, stating things like, "If you don't come in here, I'm going to go room by room and start shooting people." At 10:47, UPMC Hospital police officers respond and arrive at the ICU. They immediately hear gunfire. These officers responded each to a different door entering into the ICU. The entrance that we're primarily going to refer to which is the one that the actor entered into and becomes the subject when we talk later on about the shooting that occurred in the hallway. That is the main door of the ICU. There are other entrances to the ICU as well. One officer went to the main entrance and opened the doors, while the other officer went to a side entrance. That UPMC officer entered, and upon entering into the ICU, they observed that the actor had a healthcare worker held hostage with a gun to that worker's head. The actor states to the officers that he will kill the hostage should anyone enter the ICU. The actor then discharges 2 to 3 rounds at one of the UPMC officers. Based upon this occurring in the hostage situation and the firing of the handgun at one of the UPMC officers, the UPMC officers at that point retreat and wait for the other officers to arrive that are on their way for dispatch to now resolve the hostage situation that may result in imminent death to any one of the hostages. At 10:51 hours is when Officer Duarte and another officer both arrive in position outside of the main entrance doors. Other officers are also arriving and are going to different points of entry and exit around the ICU. They are also, at this point in time, they are establishing perimeters and are making determinations on how to protect the hundreds of other employees, patients, and visitors who are present at the hospital during this hostage situation. Once the officers had arrived, they did not hear any more gunfire. At this particular point in time, the officers stated to each other, if we hear any gunfire, we are going to immediately enter. Otherwise, this is a hostage situation. And with it becoming a hostage situation with no active fire, it changes from the immediacy of the active shooter situation. And the officers all began utilizing their training and experience to go ahead and work and achieve different protocols that the situation now requires. During this time period, another situation occurs. The last of the shots fired that is heard happens when the doors were open and the UPMC officers are observing what is occurring into the ICU. After the 3 shots are fired at the UPMC officer, the actor points his firearm at a healthcare worker who is laying on the ground. He proceeds then to discharge 1 round, striking the healthcare worker in the leg. That is the last round discharged, and prior to the time period when the officers take their position at 10:51. During the time period as the officers are gathering and are in position outside of the doorways and are evaluating and establishing their other positions, the actor reapproaches one of the healthcare workers and zip ties her hands before stating, "It's 11:02. Tell them they have until 11:25 or they're gonna start being bodies. The actor also had been calling for another healthcare worker who had been assisting with treatment of a significant other, and officers to enter into the ICU naked to prove they were unarmed so that he could go ahead and confront the other healthcare worker. The actor places a phone call. He calls an individual overheard as being Leo, and he tells that individual to go clean up his house and give his jewelry away. He is overheard by healthcare workers stating, "Tell everybody that I love them. This is what I want. This is how I'm going out." Law enforcement was able to confirm through call detail records that this call was made to the brother of the actor. Pennsylvania State Police did work to execute a search warrant on the 22nd on the actor's residence. They served that search warrant at 9:36 p.m. on this same day. And upon arriving, they did in fact observe the confirmation of the call as well that was made by the actor to his brother. And it was readily apparent that numerous items were removed from the actor's residence. The state police, assisted by our county detectives, ended the search warrant at 10:30 p.m. There was no information discovered within the residence that would help to provide any clarity or clarification regarding the mental state of the actor. And in fact, an investigation did occur into the mental state of the actor. Numerous interviews were conducted with individuals that knew both the actor and his significant other. There was no description provided whatsoever that would lead anyone to have believed that the actor was going to commit this type of mass violence. The most indication that had occurred regarding the actor's past and any types of mental health issues, all was from information obtained from years prior. No one had any information that tied to the recency of the events that occurred. If I may have one moment, please. The healthcare worker who was shot in the leg, that healthcare worker was instructed to go deliver a message to the police outside of the ICU doors. The healthcare worker saw this as an opportunity to be able to flee being in the presence of the actor, and did so, fleeing into the bathroom of the first patient room, and she was able to lock herself inside. As more officers began to arrive, they began to position themselves outside of the ICU door and still do not hear any additional gunfire, as this is a hostage situation. The officers at this point in time that were by the ICU entrance door, and at this moment, with information provided by a special tactical individual as part of our countywide QRT team, they open the doors and attempt to assess the situation. In opening the doors to assess the situation, they establish a plan. The plan was going to involve the first officer in, should they need to enter, and should this be a shooting situation, was going to be the officer who held a shield. And he would provide cover for the officers entering in behind, should they need to, at that moment, eliminate the actor as the shooting threat. When the doors open, the actor begins yelling, "Back the F up, close the effing door, I'm not messing around, get the F back." The actor also attempts to use a healthcare worker as a hostage and as a shield against law enforcement. Law enforcement was able to go ahead and observe a female staff member on the ground. They were also continuing to observe the healthcare worker being held at gunpoint, being held hostage, and that the healthcare worker, he kept saying that he was going to blow her head off and ordering them to close the effing door. Officers attempted to engage in de-escalation with the actor. The lead officer began stating to him, "We can work this out, man. Anything can be worked out," as they continued to repeat that in an attempt to go ahead and de-escalate and remedy the hostage situation. Given the fact that the actor was holding a hostage at gunpoint, and with what was being stated, that he was going to shoot her in the head, and with them having no clean line of sight based upon his position and the hostage's position in the hallway, the officers did the only thing that could be done at that point, which was to have the door shut and continue to engage in further tactical discussions and in further hostage scenarios. One of the aspects that occurred is the immediate transition into a barricaded gunman scenario. At the direction of supervisors and members of the quick response team for York County who were arriving, officers were divided into entry teams. Some officers on the left side of the main ICU door and some on the right side of the ICU door. All were being instructed on how and in which order to proceed, all of which would follow the officer who had the protective shield. As they were organizing at this location, they were also organizing at the other points of entry into the ICU and continued on the other floors to look after and to ensure that there's no further threat to any individual anywhere in the hospital. Part of dividing up in the team of officers was also to determine what officers would render medical aid. And they divided up to where certain officers would provide immediate medical response should that become necessary. With each officer, all from numerous departments, coming together as one to go ahead and determine how they are going to serve and protect. At approximately 11:11 a.m., a healthcare worker was able to snap out of her zip ties. The actor points his firearm at her head and pulls the trigger 3 times. The firearm at this point was empty and made a clicking sound when he was pulling the trigger. This fact as to whether or not the firearm is unloaded was unknown to the healthcare workers beyond this clicking. One healthcare worker believed that they observed the actor striking his firearm like it was jammed. No individual that was a healthcare worker was aware if the actor had any additional rounds of ammunition or happened to have another firearm. No member of law enforcement had any awareness whatsoever of what the status was of the actor's firearm, other than the fact that he used it to shoot at and to shoot multiple individuals and was continuing to threaten to kill other healthcare workers. The healthcare worker attempted to get up, but was pushed back down by the actor. The actor then decided to grab another healthcare worker who was lying on the ground, with zip ties nearby, and walked that healthcare worker towards the main door of the ICU. The actor told the healthcare worker to take him to where the most people are. The actor then pushed the healthcare worker into the ICU door to open it and followed closely behind the healthcare worker with one hand on her neck and the gun pointed at the back of her head. At 11:13 and 45 seconds, the actor, while holding the healthcare worker hostage at gunpoint, exited the main door of the ICU. The officers that were in their tactical positions immediately created a reactionary gap and backed up in order to take full recognition and to make full determinations of the hostage situation that was in front of them. Every officer to a person stated that they were not going to discharge their firearm unless they believed that they had a clear and present opportunity to strike the actor and not strike the hostage. Officers from both sides of the doorway begin to fire. The first officers to fire were the ones with the most direct line of vision. Those were the officers from the left side who had the direct line of vision of the hostage and were able to fire swiftly and truly at the actor. Then officers, and this is occurring in real time in a matter of half seconds to seconds, with decisions needing to be made with incredible precision, proceed to fire from the right side. One such round from a shotgun that is fired by an officer who is positioned closest to the wall on the right side strikes the actor in the back, upper shoulder area on the left side. Pellet from this shotgun shot also strikes the wall. No pellet strikes the hostage, as the shot is pulled to where it would strike the actor or nothing else next to the actor, and not the hostage. As the shot is fired, one projectile strikes the lead officer on the left side of the door, holding the shield. In his right hand, he held his firearm, his handgun. The projectile, the shot, hits his right hand and travels into his arm. At that point, Officer Andrew Duarte is diagonal and slightly behind to the officer with the shield. He is turned slightly to the left, and he is aiming at his target, being the actor, to free the hostage. 2-shot strike Officer Duarte. 1 shot strikes him in the left arm and goes across his chest. The other strikes him at the left side chest area, at the mesh area, where his tactical protective vest would not have coverage, and strikes him at the mesh and goes across his chest. A third officer on the left side also is struck in the leg from another shot. It is unknown if this shot was a through and through, meaning has gone completely through the actor, or was one of the wounds that struck the actor and struck the officer in the leg. We do know that from the final count, there were 22, including the shotgun shell discharged cartridge. There were 22 cartridges that were found of rifles, 1 9mm, and 1 shotgun cartridge. The actor was struck between 15 to 20 times. It's difficult to be more precise due to the nature of the injuries and which ones were passed through or were not. But conservatively, it would be 15 times. The hostage was not struck once. Again, as I stated previously, every officer stated to a person they would not discharge their firearm if they thought they were going to strike the hostage. She was not struck. At this point in time, the officer who is struck in the hand and arm and Officer Duarte, they proceed around the corner into another hallway. There's a hallway that is near where the left entrance is of the ICU. They proceed back into that hallway as well as some other officers. Officer Duarte realizes he's hit and says so. He then proceeds forward down the hallway back towards the ICU. When he gets to the corner of the ICU, go into that hallway, he sees the officer who is struck in the leg down. That officer, at this point, is now being pulled by another officer. Officer Duarte leans over to the officer who is down and now is starting to be moved. Officer Duarte then, after leaning down towards that officer, succumbs to his injuries and collapses on the ground. I mentioned previously about how officers were responding and assigned to respond for medical care. Immediately, those officers responded to the ones who had been injured. One immediately responded to the officer who was struck in the hand and arm and began to apply tourniquets to go ahead and help stop the bleeding. Another applied 2 tourniquets to the officer who was struck in the leg. 2 officers came over, with one in particular with specialized TAC med training, began to care for Officer Duarte. And they all provided as best and swift emergency care as is humanly possible. At that point, medical personnel from UPMC continued to come forward to treat them. All three officers were transported quickly and decisively to Wellspan York Hospital for emergency treatment. The actor, meanwhile, he was fatally struck multiple times, including injuries to the head, to the neck, to the torso, again struck between 15 to 20 times. The actor dropped his firearm during the course of this. The firearm was picked up and collected by another officer. The officer who collected the firearm cleared the firearm to make sure that it no longer could be a danger or threat. That particular firearm was unloaded at that time. Again, as I stated previously, this fact was unknown to any officer and was unknown to the healthcare workers who were inside the ICU. Those healthcare workers that were inside of the ICU, again, had no way of knowing or would have no information regarding whether or not he was able to reload, grab another firearm, or if in fact he was able to unjam his gun when he was slamming his gun to see if it was jammed. The hostage was told by officers the moment they saw that she could be free to quickly run from the location of the actor who is now down. She goes to run because of her condition and because of being zip-tied, does fall and does strike her head, causing serious injury to her. She then is immediately responded to by officers to care for her and to make sure that otherwise she'll be okay until medical personnel were able to arrive. The officers, in addition to rendering medical aid, those officers also went through the ICU and cleared the ICU to make sure that there are no other actors, that there is no other harm that can happen, and to make sure that everyone present at the ICU is not harmed and is in, physically speaking, a medical condition that does not require immediate medical treatment other than those who are patients in the ICU. All in all, the amount of officers who responded to UPMC included multiple officers from the West Manchester Township Police Department, West York Police Department, York City Police Department, Northern York County Regional Police Department, our York County Sheriff's Department, Spring-It's-Berry Township Police Department, Spring Garden Police Department, Pelham Township Police Department, Lower Windsor Township Police Department, York County Regional Police Department, the York College Police Department, our York County District Attorney's Office County Detectives, the Game Commission, the Pennsylvania State Police, and finally, all of the combined members of the Quick Response Team who came together to assist in the direction and the execution of remedying and stopping a deadly hostage situation. In terms of persons in the end who were injured, regarding healthcare workers, as we had stated on February 22nd, there was a doctor who was grazed by a projectile. There was a healthcare worker who was shot in the leg, a healthcare worker who suffered significant physical trauma, including head trauma, and a healthcare worker who required medical treatment for minor trauma suffered during the course of being abducted by the actor. From officers, we had a Spring-It's-Berry Township police officer who was struck, a Northern York County Regional police officer who was struck, a deputy sheriff from the sheriff's department who had received a shrapnel injury, and of course, we had the killing of Officer Andrew Duarte as well, who did finally pass away at York Hospital. The individuals I just discussed, all the healthcare workers, and of course, all the police officers, all those members of law enforcement, they are heroes. These heroes showed what it means to be willing to lay down your life with sacrificial love for your mission, for your cause, for all those who you serve. The officers ran in to allow all of us to be safe. Everyone is able to go home tonight and every night that is a resident, a citizen, a visitor of York County because of the sacrifice that our police officers are willing to make. You cannot make that sacrifice unless you not only love what you do, but you serve a cause and a mission that is greater than you. You cannot do this unless you are willing to give of yourself sacrificial love. They did. They were willing to. I looked at every moment of video and I saw on every person's face that willingness to walk into, to run into the path of gunfire and potential death. They were willing to lay down their lives for every single person at that hospital. We don't always think about this in those terms, because thank God, thank Jesus Christ, that this does not happen all the time, but far too frequently it does. And in this case, it did. They knew they had an objective: eliminate the threat, save the hostage. They eliminated the threat. The actor is dead. He could not harm anyone anymore. And they saved the hostages. They saved the hostage in the hallway. Not one discharged shot striking her, while eliminating the person who was showing a desire to kill her. And in the course of that, officers were harmed, and Andrew Duarte laid down his life for us. On a final personal note, I've been doing this 27 years. Seen a lot. We've all looked at a lot. We've all done a lot. There are moments that you look at in your life and you say, I'm never going to be changed again. This is one of them. You can't change. You can't go ahead and go back to who you were before you look at this. You have to be different. If we're not different with each other, and we aren't willing as public servants or just as human beings that have friends, family, live in neighborhoods, see strangers who are in need, if we cannot at least give 1 ounce of time, of dignity, of support, of love to another, then who are we? Then why are we here? I'll never forget those faces, their sacrifices. I will never forget looking at what they were willing to do for us. If they're willing to lay down their lives for us, the least we can do is sacrifice 1 ounce of time to be kind to one another. If we do that, then maybe, ultimately, all of them, and most importantly, Officer Andrew Duarte will have the true, lasting legacy that he was meant to have. His mother said to me, said to all of us, and I know said to you as reporters, it was time for the Lord to call him home. And so it was. He persevered. He fought the good fight. He finished the race. He kept the faith. And we were all better off as a society by him having been here with us for the 30 years that we were able to be with him. God bless you, Officer Andrew Duarte, and may you find your home with Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.